This is Robert Harper with Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division. Thankful and glad to bring you the Merchandiser Minute for Friday, January the 8th, 2021. And I'd like to take a minute here to talk about local basis before we get into what's going on, a few of the things that are going on in the Chicago futures markets. I would like to speak about corn basis. We are definitely seeing a tightening of delivery month availability here in Virginia for corn. A lot of producers the last 3 to 4 weeks with the run up in the corn futures, y'all are making really good decisions. You're deciding to let some of your old crop corn bushels go, those bushels in the bin, and we're seeing destinations buying a lot of corn, and that can definitely, we know from experience, put downside pressure on basis bids. So give us a call next week, Josie or myself, to talk about locking in some basis and even cash price at your favorite delivery destination going forward. Another absolutely exciting week in the futures market in Chicago. It's enjoyable for me and anxious, a lot of anxiety for me as well, watching these markets unfold and all the influences that come in every week. I enjoy documenting and writing down different things that I see, and it really is getting difficult to try to figure out what to highlight. But let's look first at a few important things today. But first, let's look at how the futures closed in Chicago. March corn up 12 cents a bushel for the week to close at $4.96. We did go through $5 this week briefly on the nearby corn futures contract. We hadn't seen that price since the spring of 2014. So nearby corn, March corn up 12 at $4.96 for the week. March soybeans up 63 cents this week to close at $13.74. And your new crop Chicago wheat contract, July wheat futures up 3 cents for the week to close at $6.31 a bushel. It has been interesting to take a few seconds here on wheat. There has not been the rosy fundamental picture for positive price direction for wheat like it has been for corn and soybeans. We've got a lot of reasons to back up the corn and soybean futures rally. Not so much on the wheat side, and wheat has really been a follower of corn and soybeans over the last few weeks as the funds have really just jumped in and bought corn and bean futures. Let's take a look at the export loadings this week from USDA corn, our top destination, Mexico. Number 2, China. Soybeans this week, top destination, China. Number 2, Mexico. And wheat, number 1 destination this week, China. Number 2, Philippines. And another thing that's just popped into my mind about wheat, over the last couple of weeks, we are seeing wheat exports decline somewhat as the price is going up on those bushels on the futures market. And something just to say here up front, the market, and especially in the case of soybeans, is definitely trying to find that rationing price, that high enough price that will cause people who use bean products to use less, to slow that demand down, and then therefore slow down the price rally. Back to the USDA, our export sales report this week was as expected for corn. Japan and unknown, which we know usually means China, were the top 2 destinations for sales. Soybeans came in below expectation for the week. China was number 1 on the list, and wheat came in as expected for the week in the range of expectation, Taiwan and China. We were thankful today, Friday, to see a flash sales announcement for soybeans. That'll show up too in next week's export sales report, but we saw a large purchase, 7.5 million bushels of beans by China. Ethanol report this week showed 94 million bushels of corn ground for ethanol. That's down from last year, obviously, but not as much as maybe you or I would think. Last year, this week, we ground 106 million bushels of corn for ethanol. And the big news in the ethanol front, and we got word of this last month, but we're seeing it again, China has bought and is buying U.S. ethanol. That's a good thing. Commitment of traders report coming into the week, corn, a long position of 332,000 futures contracts. Soybeans, managed money speculator long, 196,000 futures contracts. And wheat, managed money speculator long, 13,000 contracts. So a lot of room for the speculator to grow a long position in wheat, so they choose. This week we saw crude oil trade above $50 a barrel. That's pre-COVID numbers. We see the dollar futures just struggling. We traded under 90 this week and got back above 90 on that futures index today. Remember, with as much money that's been printed and put into the economy since March, the dollar's just going to be worth less. So take that for what it's worth. We heard this week that Argentina's ag ministry is going to re-look at their decision 2 weeks ago, to stop the export of corn until March. We know we've got another strike down there, the port workers strike this time. Keep your eye on that. Money flow has changed this week. We've really seen that over the last 2 weeks as the fund speculators just pile in, buying a lot of different ag commodities, a basket, if you will, of commodities. I heard one analyst call it that this week. That's not my word, but I liked how he said it. A basket of commodities these funds are buying. We even had fluid milk futures one day this week limit up. So there's lots of reasons for all this, but we know that they're chasing, that it's money chasing, it's money looking for a home. They were betting on certain political things that have come to fruition this week, and they're thinking that inflation is coming. This is the speculator, and that's why they're wanting to buy ag commodities now, because they think inflation's coming and they're going to be worth more later. We're going to watch that next week. The market is just looking for sellers and can't find it. Buy. We also see this week, and to highlight again, the big inversion in the soybean board, futures board. We also have inversions in the corn and wheat board. That's a classic sign, as we've talked about, of a bull market. Just like it's a classic sign of a bull market, of a lot of activity in the night session, a lot of volume. We're going to look for more of that next week. And the main thing next week, all eyes are going to be on the USDA on Tuesday, January the 12th, for the annual crop production report, the final numbers for 2020. Give Josie or I a call if we can help you. Thank you for working with us this week. This is Robert at the Virginia Farm Bureau Grain Division.